the same YouTube feed, right? Oh, I'm going to go into YouTube.
There we go. Looks like we're live, buddies.
Hello. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. It's been a while since I've been here with Robin.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed the last one.
I'm telling you, it was awesome, but it wasn't as good without you.
Well, this time we've got a special guest.
Not that he is special. Well, he is special, but not in that way. He looks like he's frozen, though.
Oh, no.
Is he frozen?
He is frozen. He's not able to sit still for that long, I'm sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sheffy.
Okay. I'm just trying to see if I can get the Zoom working, but who knows?
Which Zoom?
I'm going to copy the YouTube link and put it on my Facebook.
So we should be in the same. I'm just going to bump into that one. Check her out.
We'll give Sheffy a minute to get himself connected here before we...
Yeah, no problem. So, recap. I don't know if you watched the whole last one. It was long. We did like 25 minutes, Robin. But
yeah,
in 25 minutes, we managed to set up a full Azure infrastructure. And we broke it. Halfway through,
yeah,
it was like, we're done. This is not working. And we were able to restart it, save it, and redeploy the big IP in the infrastructure we set up and everything in the cloud. So I thought
Dan Kaye. Yeah, I watched it. I did watch it. I was on vacation, but I got the notification that you guys were going live, so I tuned in.
So it was. I thought it was cool. It worked really well, like super real world. We had actual real problems where it broke in the middle of it, which is that happens, right? And it was cool that we could turn around and fix it in this similar time frame that we wanted to use anyways to do this. So it was awesome. But I thought that was a good one too.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was totally useful as well because, I mean, Dan Kaye has been working on that Amazon build out for a long time now. So it's probably going to be useful for other people to review that video.
It was super. It was awesome too. So I'll tell you one other thing. Because of that, some other people have seen it. And we are going to duplicate that as not only a YouTube live thing, but we're going to do live sessions where we do that for real with Microsoft in a few places around, just in Canada right now. But we're doing a few places around Canada where we're going to do live sessions with Microsoft to spin these up.
Yeah. Oh, there's Sheffy.
There he is.
Hi, guys.
Jeff.
Hey, you know what? If you're running Zoom, I would say stop Zoom.
Okay. I'm going to be?
If you're running Zoom right now, I would say kill your Zoom, anything that you're running, because it's...
Okay. I'm not running Zoom. But...
Okay.
All right. I think we're ready to get Sheffy to school us here. We were just doing a bit of a recap for the last few minutes talking about Dan Kaye and his Amazon web services, and we're kind of doing this thinking it's a little bit of practice to learn how to speak to the camera, but word spreads and people take an interest, and we often get a couple hundred viewers, and sometimes it's people who really take an interest, such as tell Sheffy the story about
Dan?
About Dan, yeah.
Yeah, so we basically, real world application of, we were deploying Big IP in Azure, and it broke, and we were able to reset it, restart it, and do it still on the time frame we set. But it was a little not real world because everyone would have their typical infrastructure stuff set up already. And what we did is we set up the entire infrastructure and deployed the big IP and set up access control, all in the 20 minutes we allotted to do it too. So I thought it was pretty good as a demo of practical real life deployment. So although the demo gods were not on our side, they let us come back and save it.
Yeah, I thought he did a fantastic job.
Sure. So I'm going to jump right into why we have Scheffler here and what kind of prompted this. So aside from the fact that Scheffler is awesome and talks to partners and customers all over North America, I think you're in Europe too sometimes, right? Yeah?
Not very often.
So the answer is yes. He's also in Europe. So this is, in my opinion, this is a global resource that I work with. Super smart. Super dynamic, does a lot of really cool stuff. And one of the presentations that he was giving at our sales kickoff, it clarified a few things for me. So I'm by trade a security guy, and everyone keeps using this new term, which I always thought was brute force. I'm like, how do we let the marketing people just get a hold of everything? And Scheffler's like, listen, dum-dum, it's something entirely different. It's not brute force. This is different. This is why we call it credential stuffing. And so we kind of defined that a bit for me. So I was like, I thought that was the same. And this spurred some other ideas around password managers. And then there was also an analogy around beer that really resonated, that helped me identify a little more with this. Not because I have a beer problem, but it was a clear way of kind of how Scheffler kind of gets his message across. Do you remember that session here? I even did that.
But I don't remember the beer part. But I'm not. I might have just been riffing and came up with it in line. I'm not sure.
It was, and I wish I remembered it because it was really good. It really resonated. Maybe. So through the discussion today, maybe you'll remember it as well. So I just want to know. So for other people like me who are confused why they call brute forcing credential stuffing, you want to just kind of hit that off? We check that off and say, okay, well, this is what we do.
So, sorry, I think your question was the difference between brute force and credential stuffing?
Right.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, Robin was asking if my heater was running, and no, it's not. But
okay,
I do hear some background hissing. Is it my hissing?
I think so. It's not me today.
I'm not sure what it is. I'm in a pretty quiet room, so maybe it's the sound of silence. Well, yeah, there is a big difference between credential stuffing and brute force, right? So brute force is sort of the old way that we would have attacked a login page. If somebody were to want, like, say 5-10 years ago, somebody wanted to attack a website and log into an application, there's a lot of ways that we could do that. So we could use a tool. For example, there was a very common one, or still common one, called Hydra, and here, I'll just actually, while I'm doing that, I will do that. Hydra. The Hydra itself, was a piece of software that you could go and download for free. It was nice, and essentially it was a tool that spun up a bunch of threads, and you fed it like maybe a bunch of normal usernames like admin or root or something like that, and then you fired a bunch of words at it. So there were dictionaries, you could go use the English dictionary and get 75,000 words kind of thing, right? So you would have a dozen or 100 or 1,000 possible regular usernames, right? So the common usernames that are going to be on servers like administrator and admin and root and things like that. And then you fired all these random words at it because that's typically what people did. And how they had their passwords, right? So it was a fairly common attack. People got smart to protect against that, and 5-7 years ago, because it was pretty easy to tell when those attacks were coming in, because you have almost like a superhuman kind of a transaction happening on the login page, and so it was pretty easy to see it. A firewall gets.
We lost a bit of audio there. Oh, no, I can't hear you either.
I unmuted myself. Sheffy's audio is not coming through, but you can tell he's telling us a good story, though. At least he talks with his hands.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that he probably can't hear us either. Do you see that? Did he accidentally mute himself or something?
I have no idea. I can only speculate, but
no, in your control you can see.
Oh, no, he hasn't muted himself there, but
okay. So, here we go. So what? I guess what are going to be one of the takeaways from this one that we're? Oh, have I been pwned? See, I love this part of the story that he tells. I'm always scared of using these because I feel like this is another place where someone else is going to catch me. So I'm leery about putting my email into these to check them. But
yeah,
like this is a security professional using this. So I've heard that we've talked about this before about looking for places where he's probably also mentioned about Pastebin, how you can pull up a whole. Oh, we lost his video. There he's come back. How you can pull up every day a whole list of all the different credentials that people are using to do a typical credential stuffing attack.
Yeah. Maybe we should give him a call because we don't want to miss this. I mean, he's going off and telling a good story here.
Yeah, let's see if I can. I'll text him. So this, and I know this is a good story because I have heard this when he goes into Have I Been Pwned, and he's probably telling you about how he found his credentials in there as well too. But are you calling?
Yeah, I was.
Hey, yes, Robin, how are you? He's on the phone now. He's calling one of us, maybe.
Hey, Sheffy, your audio went off. We can see you. We can see you talk. We're talking on the phone, but your audio's not coming through the stream.
Right now, our cast is one of those bad lip reading shows. Tell him.
We're trying to. Maybe disconnect and reconnect. Yeah, try that.
Oh, tell him to use.
We're doing a hard reset here.
Firefox.
I think he is using Firefox.
Okay. So, anyways, I could tell. Oh, are you still chatting with him?
Uh-oh. We may have a live stream. We may have to abort.
Abort. Well,
he's going to try launching Firefox again.
Houston.
we might have to upload a new set of instructions.
Yeah, how are we going to fix this for next time?
Let's see.
Joe, I'll tell you too. I thought this one was going to be the one where we're going to have some more real-time viewers, and I'll tell you why. I had tons of good reception from like all the LinkedIn posting I was doing prior. Oh, here we go.
I can hear you guys now too, because there was nothing. Like I had no audio whatsoever.
Okay, we are back live. So, Sheffy, you cut out fairly early on when you were first pulling up the screen share there. I'm not sure if that's going to help you reset a little bit, but it looked like you were starting to tell a pretty good story, and we don't want to miss the beginning of that. Can you rewind a little bit?
I don't even know what to rewind to, but okay.
I can tell you where. I know exactly where. So you started getting into Hydra and how it's a bit different how we do attacks. And my guess is from hearing this story similarly before, you were getting just about to the part where you talk about where people get credentials. Like,
yeah. So I mean, it's actually pretty easy. So I mean, here's this is the Hydra tool. You know, it's available on a bunch of fairly legitimate sites like SourceForge and Kali, right? So there it is fairly easily available. But the problem is it doesn't work anymore, right? I mean, it doesn't really do what people would have wanted it to do, because the dictionary attack with multiple usernames and passwords, combination, there's a lot of tools that can see those kind of transactions. Even if you try to do it relatively low and slow, it's a problem, right? So what the attackers do now is they look at the compromised list of usernames and passwords, right? In this case, I'm looking at my email address. This is live me, and this is where my username and password for would have been exposed inside of here. Now, in 2013, that was my Adobe password, which, like most people, you end up with really 4 passwords, right? You have your easy to remember low risk password that you use on free sites or gaming sites or something like that. You have your semi-secure password, that you want to lock down a little bit more. Maybe you use that on the odd e-commerce site. And then you have your banking password, your secure site password, and then you have a password that you don't share with your significant other, right? So you have that super secret password. So in this case, hopefully it was not the same password I had as my corporate account, that someone would try to compromise it. And so when this happens, people, the attackers are going to take that huge list of usernames and passwords and fire those at a login page. And what typically happens in the world today is, say 50% of traffic is bots. I mean, you depending on the report that you're looking at. But on a login page, probably 90% of the traffic of that is bots, right? So if you have a customer-facing login page, whether you're a bank or a point system or whatever, that probably is getting a lot of hits. Probably 9 in 10 are coming from a bot, and they're trying compromised username and passwords, because we can go find those, right? We can go to Pastebin, pretty easy and pull up Pastebin.com and pull up a bunch of usernames and passwords that might have been compromised, say, in the last 24 hours. Now, Pastebin does a good job. They try to get rid of them, but people are posting stuff here all the time, right? And that becomes a good way for people to find usernames and passwords and try them, right? So does that help explain the difference between a brute force attack and a credential stuffing attack?
Yeah. So brute force, you hammer the rainbow list. where credential stuffing is real credentials that the user that have been pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dictionary attack essentially. In the case, like a rainbow would be more of a like a hash table, right? So this is even a case where we're not even worrying about what the usernames and passwords are. We're just sending strings to it, right? And we might concatenate it, or we might change the A's to ats or something like that, right? But the idea
it's
here
known
is
accounts, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, it's known accounts.
Well, the credential stuffing is known accounts, yes, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with the known account still is that people are sharing your passwords. So what we want to get people looking at is using a password manager, which is going to be something that literally allows you to have multiple passwords. I'm going to try changing screens here. Hopefully this time I don't lose my audio. Can you still hear me? Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping you respond when I do that. Okay. So in this case, what we can do is we can get around this problem as a user is we can look at password manager, right? So I have a password manager, and in this case, I use LastPass, right? So I have a master password that I type my master password in. That's a very long, unique password. I try to have high entropy in it, and so that my password here is secure. And then LastPass manages individual passwords. So every website has its own username and password. Well, its own password. Quite often, it's good to also have its own username too. But that is probably a stretch in a lot of cases. But LastPass worries about ensuring that I know the username and password for each site. So when I go and visit a site, it actually offers me an option to generate a new username and password. I can do that on my phone. I can do that on my laptop, on my iPad. I can log into a browser here, and be able to access that password database as well. And I can even share passwords with other people too. So there's the opportunity for me to be able to provide a short-term password for somebody. Because password reuse is the biggest problem, right? And that and we need to get away from it. And a password manager is something that really helps. And I mean, I have an instant short-term issue with password reuse. I mean, I just bought a bunch of nice new cameras. Did some research, looked really good. The price was amazing. So, we wanted to put some security cameras around the house. Well, it turns out that the way that that company has built themselves is I have to share my username and password for other people to be able to see it. To me, that's almost enough to return the product. I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't have a multi-user access so that, my wife can have her own username and password on her phone, log in and be able to see it. Maybe I want to even log into somebody else's cameras and some to monitor a friend's camera while they're gone, or my relative's camera or something like that. The way it should be is that we don't reuse or share usernames and passwords, right? So in the case of LastPass, we could generate a temporal password for a site and then revoke that at some time as well. And the other thing too is if we get a notification like we did in 2017 where GitHub and Twitter said, "Whoop, we might have had a case where usernames and passwords were seen in clear text. We suggest you go change your username and password." Well, I can just tell LastPass to go change my username and password. And I know some people even I don't have it configured that way, but I know some people even just have it configured to automatically change the username and password every once in a while. Okay, so does that sort of explain some of the ideas behind credential stuffing and password management?
Yeah, it does. Maybe I can ask you a question just to help our viewers at home, to put it in simple terms. Our phones have a password manager of sorts built into them, right? Either you scan your fingerprint or there's facial ID, and then it unlocks passwords for websites that you go to, and you don't have to remember them. how is LastPass different from those mechanisms?
No, it actually integrates directly with the phone environment. So on my phone, I just use my face to unlock my LastPass. So when I go to a website, regardless of whether it's if it's asking for a username and password, the device knows that it's a username and password. It says, "Would you like to use a username and password?" And I can just use my thumb if it's a thumbprint for my iPad, my later version iPhone, and it logs me in. And the way I have LastPass configured is it shares it across all environments. And I understand that the free version now offers that as an option. And there are others like Matt, there's 1Password, there's LastPass, there's KeyPass, there's freeware ones. I'm not advocating that LastPass is the best. When I did my research after I had been pwned, believe it or not, I actually had my username and password leaked in the LinkedIn breach a few years ago, and I had a very high entropy, very secure password, but I shared it across different services with the same username. And lo and behold, apparently I had teleported to South Africa and was trying to log into into another service. It warned me saying, "Hey, this is a weird login. We don't think this is you." That was a Sunday afternoon. By Monday morning, I had decided, I researched on PC Mag or something like that, and LastPass was the one that I picked, and I could have easily picked KeyPass or 1Pass or any one of the other ones, because I mean, honestly, they all have they all do the same thing, and they're all reasonably secure. And I know someone out there right now is screaming at the screen saying, "But LastPass was compromised." Yes, well, yes, that's possible. That the site itself becomes compromised, but the way the database is configured and hashed and salted, that there's no way for someone to be able to get the usernames and passwords. If you think of the level of hashing that happens in these databases, it would take millennia for computers to be able to reverse engineer just a single password, let alone millions of passwords in the database.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go back to like quantum computing and all this kind of stuff, but let's not go there. Because I hear that incrementally reduces the time that it takes to do all that, but not here today, right?
Yeah, I want to answer that, but I'm not going to.
Well, yeah, we'll have you on again. We'll do. I would love to learn more about that. I knew nothing about that except for quantum computing is supposed to make things faster, but
it makes some things faster. It actually is slower in other ways, and it doesn't change how to unhash them.
Okay. But so, anyways, like you're saying, these tools are all the same. Mine also says, by the way, you're using this, like, hey, dum-dum, you're using this password already somewhere else. Like, okay, so I can go and change that. Gives me super long, unrememberable passwords as well, too. I really think, too, if anyone, like, the best part about this is if some terrorist comes and says, "Give me the code to your bank," I'll be like, "I don't know it. I really don't know it."
Yeah. That's right.
So,
I
do the same with my wife as well too. What's the password to email? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know. And I guess the extension of this is then is phishing, right? So is another way for compromised applications to be compromised is through phishing, and that's a big problem. And actually, Microsoft just released a report this week saying they actually found phishing to have increased. And when I say increased, I mean 100% increase over 2018. In between October 2019 or 2018 and 2019. Their research showed that it actually had doubled the amount, and the amount of other kind of attacks actually had decreased, because phishing is actually getting to be more and more it's actually becoming more and more successful. And there's actually been some very cool phishing attacks that have come out. If you indulge me, I'll nerd out on some of these.
Do tell.
one is actually, this is so I don't have a nefarious mind, but I really enjoy some of the things these hackers come up with. So what they actually were doing is they were using well, actually, Microsoft sort of coined a new term called laser phishing, right? So it's even better than spear phishing. It's a step above it, and what they actually were doing was targeting people with emails that had a link in it, and the link actually was a search that when you clicked on it, it would be a Google search. And they bought the AdWord, so the AdWord would be really high, and the results, so they would be the first result at when you clicked on it. So, Matt, I'd send you an email saying, "Hey, this is really cool. Have a look at all these dogs, or whatever, right?" And then the search wouldn't search for dogs; it would search for 04A question mark QWZ or something like that. It was just a random string. So they didn't even need to worry about buying AdWords that somebody else had. They didn't have to worry about buying, shelter dogs or something like that. They would just literally buy this really weird AdWord, and theirs would be the top, right? So you would go, oh, cool, and it would have something to do with shelter dogs, right? So you click on it, and now you've just been brought into it. So you think it's me sending you an email about shelter dogs. Well, it's not. It's somebody else that has sent it in to you, and it looks like here's a link that was interesting, and you click on it. It goes to Google, so you think everything's fine, and now you hop to some sort of weird site, and this is how they've actually fished you. And once you jump off the Google site and onto theirs, well, all hell breaks loose, and they start to attack you, right? So these are really interesting ways that phishing is happening, right?
Hey, was that report the quiet evolution of phishing?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the title of it or not.
It just came out today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll post it in the show notes as well.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up a couple graphics here, and the other thing that we're seeing is oh, there we go. Yeah, and that HR and recruiting people have become big targets too. They're posting something on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I've got this job posting, let me know if you're interested, blah, blah." And people are, sending their resumes in. Well, these resumes are also now have macros or the PDFs in them or whatever, right? So they're becoming huge targets for that. And then once, their device is compromised, they're away to the races. And I mean, this week I actually thought I got phished. I got an email from it was an unexpected email, but it seemed to be very, very, very targeted towards me. And it had a PDF on it, and so I used the Phish Me link that corporate provides us. So I had the email selected. I just go and click Phish Me, and it sends it off to our team, and they go start researching and finding whether it's a phishing email or not. And it used to be phishing emails were pretty easy to tell. You'd look at it and maybe the English wasn't all that great, or the hacker was fairly evident in it. But actually, what they're seeing now is, there are service bureaus that are doing the copywriting of these emails, and the level of integration that's available, and scripting that's available inside of Gmail or Hotmail or all these these tools. That make it even harder to find the attack in it too. So,
I love that people still do find that way though. Hey, do you do any live demos of different types of hacks or stuff like that?
I do, I guess, once in a while. It's not something I usually pull up normally. It would be more of a presentation that I would probably more do. I've built some like concepts for attacks, but it's not something I normally do.
Right. Do people ever call you in for like, hey, this is happening now. Can you come in, like, brainstorm with us about stuff, or what's the coolest, newest stuff you're seeing?
I probably couldn't answer that.
Well, if you check customer, you say the coolest, newest stuff, right?
They do call us in when there are interesting events out there, we there are some, I'll talk obliquely to some of the ones that have happened over the last few weeks.
Sure.
Mage Cart continues to be a big problem. So Mage Cart is a hack in the actual cart, the seller, the purchasing cart. So we've seen that hack happen. A couple examples from I guess over a year ago now would be the British Airlines attack and the Newegg attack. The Newegg attack actually is pretty cool. They went to the point of even getting a neweggsstats.com and the certificate for it and everything. So basically what happened with this is they hacked the Mage Cart. They hacked the cart, and they put compromised code in there that pulled their own JavaScript into the application. If you look at the way a web application, a website is built, typically, there are most likely dozens of libraries that get pulled into that to make that web page work. You look at it, and it looks like a single finished product. I mean, even just I'm looking at this tool we're using here, the Studio tool. Well, there's a chat tool over here. There's a video tool. All those are individual microservices that are being coded, and inside of each one of those, there are multiple libraries that are going to be called. Right? So if you do a taxonomy of a website, you might see some widgets are 20 and 30 libraries pulled together, and then it's a matter of stitching the code together to make it do what it does. So if any one of those 20 or 30 are sitting in GitHub and somebody can go and compromise one of those, well, now all the hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe possibly millions of sites that are using that widget now have your compromised code in it. So that becomes a huge challenge. And so that's really literally what happened in the case of the British Airways in the Newegg attack. And the attacker went so far as to get, they would exfil the data, and they exfilled it to something called Newegg stats for the Newegg attack. So it looked like it was just a Newegg thing, but they went and got that domain, they got the certificate, and that's the level of detail when you have a tailored attack coming against you. And they got, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people's credit card information and their home address and stuff, and that's pretty valuable. That'll pay for a new car, or pay for the time you can run away from the cops for.
So that's cool. I have found I have a link for what is a Mage. It's called Mage Cart.
Mage Cart. Yeah.
So I have a link for what is Mage Cart, and another media site that posted about the Newegg attack. So I'll post those two in the notes as well, so people can kind of look at them and see where they are. That's cool. I've never heard of either of those things. So very cool. So
and I guess maybe if we've got some people listening who are watching, who are in the IT space, there are a lot of things that that they can do to protect themselves. If for interest's sake, just let me. Where is it?
We did have two people watching.
We did. Let me just pull one up here. There we go. And this is something I encourage people to tinker with, and it's called Bad Things Daily, and it's a Twitter account. and it's a tabletop scenario that you can use. So roughly once a week, or a couple times a week, the person who runs this Twitter account will put on things that are operationally things you should worry about, right? So let's look at one here. Okay, so this is a tabletop scenario here. A web-based linter for a markup language was just breached, right? So linter is a piece of code or a code analysis tool to make sure that your code looks right and does the right thing, right? But so you pass your code through lint to make sure it looks good, and it doesn't have any problems in it. But now it's been breached. This has been used for config files. Any config files copy and pasted and linted from your network will have credentials scraped between now and when the site operators are informed. So for 6 months, right? So you as a IT person, a DevOps security person, whatever you are, you can go now and say, okay, what do we do? This happens to us. What can we possibly do? So this gives a tool for people to sort of okay, how can I solve these problems on my own and sort of look at them you're on your own, right? And actually, while we're on Twitter, this one's been going around for a few weeks too. Just going back to our password idea here is if you go to your dentist and you're an IT security practitioner, so the dentist asks you, have you been flossing? Me, I just stare. Dentist, stare. Me. Do you ensure all your web accounts passwords are unique, especially for things like your bank websites? And the dentist and I stare at each other and, okay, see you in 6 months? Sure, right? So we all have those things in every industry. I think that's kind of what this is. Do you get your oil changed every 5,000, or do you push it a little bit farther? So your mechanic might be looking at you, and your response is, "When's the last time you changed your password?" Right. I mean, it's everyday things, right? And these are the things that we should be thinking about all the time. I just thought that almost kind of made me chuckle when I was reading that the other day. So.
Very cool. So, that beer analogy never came back to us. I know there was other people in that session I'm gonna go talk to, and we're gonna figure out what it was. But
I know I did a bouncer one, but yes, yeah.
What was it?
I mean, a couple other things that I had that I sort of had in the queue. Microsoft did a search, just on the password reuse, back to the dentist. They did a search this year, and they came across 44 million Microsoft users who are reusing their passwords that are in Have I Been Pwned, right? So those are compromised credentials that are out there, and Microsoft is actually right now reaching out to people. If it's a personal account, you need to change your password. If it's a corporate account, whoever's maintaining that corporate account, they're going to get notified that their users are using compromised.
So in my opinion, that is horrible.
How do they actually so-called reach out to them? It's like when they go to log in with a bad password, is there a notification? Because if I get an email telling me I have to change my password, I immediately just ignore it.
Oh, it wouldn't be. No, it's not an email. So when you try to log in, it'll say your password, you're using a compromised or a weak password, and we're going through and cleaning it or doing whatever, and then notify it. No. Sending an email to somebody to change your password is probably one of the worst things to do. Also, as a title of security solutions architect, the world thinks I buy things. They don't understand that I'm a salesperson. So I go to a lot of trade shows. I get inundated by this, and I would just love to do this little snippet to all the people that send me emails saying, "Hey, we're going to be in Seattle next week, and can we take you to lunch?" And I'm like, dude, I don't even live in the States, so I don't know what you're trying to, and all I can wish you is the best of luck in your sales. But when a security person a salesperson tries to send me an email with a PDF attachment out of the blue saying, "Hey, we have to talk about our fantastic security products," really? A PDF? Like, I instantly put a black mark on that company in the future. Like that is SecOps 101. So if anybody's doing that, know that if a security person is laughing hard and deleting your email, or possibly sending it out to haveibeenphished.com. So.
Yeah. So are there databases that companies will use to examine whether or not customers are using passwords that are in these known mechanisms for hacking? And maybe
Microsoft here. Yeah. In the case of Microsoft with this 44 million, they used crowdsourced databases and some publicly accessible databases that are out there. There are a bunch of username and passwords that have been compromised over the last little while. Like 2009, there's the Rocket database, and there was a site called Rocket, and it famously got pwned, and several 100,000 usernames. I don't know. It's on my desktop here, so I think 750,000 usernames and passwords were in there. So I mean, right now there's close to 8 billion usernames and passwords, maybe arguably 10 billion usernames and passwords that have been compromised. What the overlap on that is would be hard to say, but we're planning our infrastructure to handle upwards of 28 billion by 2024. So it's a very large number of usernames and passwords. I guess 28 billion because there'll be 7 or 8 billion people on the internet, and everybody has 4 passwords. So my math nets out, right? So everybody has 4 passwords.
Yeah, that's an astronomical database.
It isn't part of one of the new features that we're releasing around our intelligence include a service like that as well too, that'll notify you of hacked passwords and usernames and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, what we would do is we check your we hash the username and password. We check that against a hashed image of usernames and passwords, and it needs to be the username and password. And then we would say, this is a match.
Okay.
Now, what the customer does with that match is up to them. They could decide to say, we're going to block you, or we're going to honeypot you, or we're going to shunt you to a page saying you're trying to log in with a compromised username and password, and we're going to stop you. So there's a bunch of different ways, and those services are out there. So we at F5 don't have that database. It's a service that we are outsourcing and then adding our own tweak to it, I'm sure, as well. So.
Okay.
But you won't end up with 28 billion usernames and passwords spread around the world. You actually use something called a Bloom filter. It's actually kind of cool. A Bloom filter is essentially an instantaneous filter. It's an index. So, if I'm looking for Peter and password, the Bloom filter looks for a case where P is in the first column, and then it says, "Yep, got it." E in the second column, yep, and then sort of works its way across for Peter password. And so we have a positive match, but a possible false positive because it could be Peter password 1 that's in the database. So we don't know that, right? We just know that there's a chance that there's a P somewhere and there's an E in the second word. And it may not even be that Peter password exists. It just might be that there's a P in the first column, there's an E in the second column. So it's, we basically then do a hashed version of the password against the real database to determine it. So it becomes a very fast check to be done.
Cool. I got some.
Hey, Carl, welcome. We got people.
Hey, Carl from Florida. What's going on, Carl?
Carl Brothers. Let's play the Wayback Machine. I remember working, the OG password manager was sticky notes on our monitors, right? If we go way back, but I remember working for a large company, a service provider, many years ago, and I was an administrator, a sysadmin at the time, and we would hand out root cards to the employees, and that was, 8 characters that you had to that were. Certain groups of machines would get 8 characters as part of their password, and then you just had to remember a prefix. So you only had to remember 3 letters, and the idea was that you didn't have to worry about losing the root password list or having somebody else find it because that prefix was not written on the card. It was 3 letters. So my question is, how long would it take a quantum computer to crack that?
wouldn't need to go a classic computer. And have to hack it and get it pretty.
How many fingers on your hand would you need to crack that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the entropy on that is almost nil, right? So just having that out there is pretty crazy. I guess hopefully that the amount of people would be a limited thing. But again, this goes back to do not share passwords, right? It should be a case where we are having unique usernames and passwords, and again, that goes back to ephemeral auth, right? So we have like we call it privileged user access, where you can define a username and password, me in Active Directory, and then when I log into my environment, then it's going to provide me the ability to access different resources. And one of those might be a system that doesn't do multi-factor or whatever in the background. But when I log into it, it creates an ephemeral username and password for me. I don't have a username and password for that firewall or that router or whatever that is. And then I'm logged in, I do my stuff, and then when I'm done, my account is purged. There's still logging that goes on, and there's still an audit log that know what the user was doing, and that user is then correlated back to my account. But I don't need to worry about the actual username and password on that device that might have a text-based username and password system, right? We see that in IoT quite a bit, where the devices just have horrible OPSEC on them, and compromising them is crazy easy. And I guess the what's this? I got. Yeah, sorry, I sort of talked a little about the password reuse, but I don't know. What else do you guys talk about on these things?
Well, we spent about an hour just kind of chatting and going over a few things, and I think we've near the end of that hour here. Let's unmute Matt so he can.
I do that all the time. I'm always worried that I'm making noises or whatever. Anyways, we usually do like 30 minutes. We try not to make it too long, but I was like, we can't stop this. Like this is going like there's good content, and everything that Peter was saying was the stuff that I wanted to make sure we talked about. So I'm also going to go through after, and I'll put like links to the topics kind of that Peter hit off. So if anyone wants to watch or check out things, it's all listed chronologically, and then with a link at the time where we started doing those things.
It's all made up. All the stats I use I just yell them very loudly, and people believe them.
And I have all kinds of information that backs up everything that Peter says.
Yeah, quickly I'll type it, and then we'll invent it. So.
Thanks to Carl for showing up and saying hi. It was fun seeing Carl, or at least his text and his old photograph. All right, so should we wrap it up?
Well, it puts that in there. That's kind of cool. Guys, thanks for having me. I do hope my ramble was relevant for some people. If there's a slot again, I would love to come back, and hopefully my audio will not be a problem like it was as we started here today. So
there's always that ramp up for the first time we did this, so we have to have you back again. So
it's part of the fun.
Maybe we'll get 2 people to watch the video.
We usually get about 200 people to watch these videos. So
really nice.
Well, probably 50 are Robin and I watching them over and over again. So we get like 100.
Yeah.
Well, I got to incent people. Got to get them some Amazon gift cards for Christmas, because we're at the year end, right? So
yeah.
Right. Well,
I just realized you have phishing in the background. See, that was the one thing I was thinking of doing. I was actually thinking of doing a phishing background and having a phishing hat.
And then F5 phishing hats. Dude, this is what I do now.
F5 phishing hats. I think we're going to have those for RSA. So
it looks like you've got some ice in the background. You could be ice fishing there. Oh, Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Called it.
Yeah. The game starts in a few minutes, so we got to wrap
All
this
right.
up.
All right. Are you in Toronto right now, Peter? No.
I am back in Toronto. I left Dallas very bright and early this morning. I've been going.
I saw that. I was like, oh, I don't think he's going to be home for this. But
no. Nope. The shot with the plane flying south with us going north and into the sun, I thought was very nice. So if you haven't seen that, at my Instagram. So.
I got it. Oh yeah, we'll throw your Instagram in there too.
Yeah, and my Twitter. I mean, I do tweet the odd thing. I'm not a voracious tweeter or a social media person. I try to put things that are relevant for people. So,
okay, I'll include all your notes and your contact info there in the notes below. So I'll be in there. Plus a few links for some things you brought up. Like I didn't know about the mage card and a few of those other things. So I'll put those links in as well. Anything else, Robin, you think I should include? I always put your or my info in there too, so we're good.
No, I think it's a good time to wrap it here.
Okay.
Sounds like the dishes are being done in the background, so it looks like it's time for Robin to go.
Yeah. Somebody's making dinner.
Dinner's ready.
All right, team. It was fun. We'll do it again.
Peace out, homies. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Peter.